Hello, and welcome to Pandemic Cooking. I'm Chef Bob here at the Vintage Room, and tonight I'm going to be making a soup that my family loves, my guests have always loved it. It's a little unusual, but I think you're going to enjoy it. We're making cabbage soup. This is a recipe that I've probably been doing for at least 30 years. I got the recipe from my mother-in-law, and she found it in the newspaper. The origins, so they say, came from the Czech Republic or the Croatian area, and it tastes somewhat like cabbage rolls. So if you like cabbage rolls, you're going to love this dish. And I'm going to pair it up with a special jazzed up cornbread that just works great with this soup. So we're going to start with just a basic large soup pot. I'm going to use my olive oil, and we're just going to sweat down a cup of celery and a cup of onions. Now you don't want to brown these onions, and you don't want to brown the celery. All we're doing is just sweating it down. I know it sounds a little strange, but when it all cooks down, dynamite. What I have here is about 1.5 pounds of good quality ground beef. This is a 90-10. And the reason I like to use the 90-10 version is it doesn't produce a lot of fat if you're going to use it in soups. I'm going to add a little bit of salt. Whenever you're using vegetables that you want to sweat down, you want to add some salt so it pulls that water out of that vegetable. Come over here to our cabbage. Now this is a medium-sized head of cabbage. You can use a larger head, that's fine, but you better have a large pot to put it in. All I have done is cut it in half, and we're going to cut it in a quarter. This is what I found is probably the easiest way to work, even making sauerkraut or anything involved with a cabbage. Put it on the end, and you can cut that core out. Whenever you're using a knife, you want it to be larger than the item or the food product that you're cutting. Okay, I know that looks like a lot, but kind of like the spinach that we did a few shows ago, it cooks down. And if you're not used to working with cabbage, I highly recommend it. I'm sweating the onions and the celery. I'm cooking the beef in one pot, and this will be the pot that we're also going to do the soup in, because I really don't like to clean pots and pans. I think I got away with it. If you're in chef school, they won't allow this. Traditionally, you'd saute it and then add it to the soup. And this is looking just fine, just fine. I usually don't like to season this as it's coming down. The reason why is if I have to strain off any of the fats, then I'm just rinsing away all the seasoning. I season it after I put it back in the pot. Now the wine that I'm drinking today, this is a Beaujolais. It's about a medium to medium light. The Beaujolais matches up great with this soup. If you don't like to drink reds with a soup, or if you just don't like reds, a perfect white wine is the Sauvignon Blanc. New Zealand, I think, is putting out some fantastic Sauvignon Blancs. California, of course. It's a great go-to wine if you don't know what to use. I don't know if you can see that, but that is cooked down perfect. It has a little bit of oil, not much oil, grease. So next what I add, 2 quarts of homemade stock. This happens to be beef stock. I put them in these quart containers, freeze them. They're good for a month or so. This is what's going to make all the difference in any soup that you make. great to have it. You cannot believe how much it improves anything that you cook with, especially soup. You can buy beef broth and even beef stock in the grocery stores in cans or in the containers. They're fine. Whenever I can replace water with a stock, do so. It just richens it up so much more. So as this is coming up to a boil, what I'm going to add is 1 beef bouillon cube. So now what I'm going to do is, as this is coming up to a boil, I'm going to start adding the cabbage. So far this is not tough. It's pretty simple. So now it's where I hit it, the top of it here, with some ground pepper. I'm just going to hit it just with a little pinch of salt, because you can salt it at the end. The next ingredient that goes in, as this is coming up to a boil, is tomato sauce. Just a basic, good grade tomato sauce. This is a 29-ounce can. That goes right in. So now you're getting the effect, a little bit, maybe of a cabbage roll at this point. So what I'm going to be using for my cornbread is the Jiffy Corn Muffin Mix. I've used it for 40 years. It's worked out great. So I'm going to actually make 1 pan full, and in that you're going to want 2 eggs. There's a technique in cracking an egg, believe it or not. Most of the bakers that I know, and if you are lucky enough to work alongside of a professional baker and you crack an egg on the side of a pan or a bowl, you're going to hear about it. You want to get used to using what we call a flat crack. And the flat crack is simply, you just take the egg, this is the bowl that we're going to be using, and you break it on the bottom of the pan or the bottom of the skillet or the bottom of the bowl. It simply comes out, very easy. What happens is, if you crack it on the side, you have a tendency to push those shells in on the egg. So that way when you're dumping the egg out, unless you're doing scrambled egg, you're probably going to break the yolk. So it's just a good idea to flat crack it. You can crack it on the surface of the counter, and it goes in really clean. You also want to have your eggs at room temperature. So anytime you're cooking, or you know you're going to be cooking and using eggs or anything, think down the road, think a couple hours out. You want to take the eggs out of the refrigerator, let them sit out for an hour or so, and you get a brighter egg. The protein in the egg white is not fused together because of the cold, and you'll just get a nicer product. It'll loft a little bit better on it. Real simple, 2 boxes. This is an inexpensive dish also. Now in this, the recipe calls, on the box, it calls for 1/3 and 1/3, so 2/3 a cup of milk. I'm only using a little more than 1/3, not a full 2/3 in this. And the reason why is I'm going to be adding a product that I know you all have seen, but this is where I kind of jazz this up. I add a little bit of dark molasses, maybe 1/4 cup. I give that a good stir. If you don't use the molasses, you can use a little bit of sugar, and it sweetens it up also. Now if you really want to jazz up any cornbread, you can chop up bacon, throw that in, cooked bacon. You can cut up jalapenos, put that in, mix that around. You can do a lot with cornbread. What I put in was molasses. Molasses and its sister, sorghum. There is no such thing as sorghum molasses. If you see it in the store, just laugh and keep going. Molasses is a separate product from sorghum. Sorghum is made from the sorghum plant. It's picked a little green and it's steamed down. The juice comes off and the juice is rendered. Molasses is from the sugar cane, big in the rum industry, huge in the rum industry, down in the Caribbean. It is also cooked down, and the juice is then rendered, and you come up with two different products. They look the same, they taste close to the same as each other, but in the molasses, you're going to get a little bit more of a bitter taste. The sorghum is more of a grassier, wheat field type of outdoor taste. So either one is fine in this, or you could pour it on biscuits or whatever. Pancakes, fantastic. If you don't have either one in your pantry, you need to get one of them in there. So now that we have this mixed down, and I'm just going to hit the outside rim, not so much the bottom, because I'll tell you something that happens. I've made enough of this cornbread that if you do not use a piece of parchment paper cut to the size of the bottom of the pan, you'll never get it out. I don't care how much grease and spray you put in the bottom. So after ruining a few dozen cornbread mixes, parchment paper, the outside gets sprayed, goes straight into the pan. 2 boxes and a 9-inch pan works just fine. I always drop the pan a few times. If there's any air that's around the outside or the middle, it'll come up to the top. It's beautiful, beautiful. Take this, we're going to put it into 400-degree oven on the center rack for 20, check it, probably 25 minutes. When we come back, show you how we finish off the soup, and I'll cut the cornbread. Welcome back, everybody. This has been cooking for about an hour. I use granulated garlic. I don't put it in as it's cooking because it sometimes has a tendency to cook the flavor right out of the garlic. You don't want to overcook this soup because you can actually cook the flavor right out of the cabbage. So I put the garlic in. The next little secret ingredient is ketchup. Just plain good quality ketchup. This is about a half a cup, and I put this in at the end. Again, it could cook the flavor right out of the ketchup. And then the really secret ingredient is brown sugar. I start with about a quarter of a cup, maybe a little bit less. Now you can taste this. Beautiful. Look how pretty that is. Baked perfectly through. Nice flaky piece of cornbread. Then I always like to serve a little bit of the either molasses or sorghum on the side. That is my famous cabbage soup and jazzed up cornbread. And if you like what you saw, subscribe to this channel. It doesn't cost anything, but then you're alerted to whenever we release another video. Until next time, folks, drink wine and be safe and enjoy the weekend.